One bullet. One gunman. One official conclusion that 75% of Americans say they don't believe.
The idea that a person could take this piece of junk and hit a moving target is ludicrous.
Was Oswald a solitary assassin or a well-played patsy?
I positively know nothing about this situation here.
New evidence of not just one assassination attempt, but three.
The Kennedy assassination remains, over 4 decades later, one of the great untold stories.
Tantalizing clues about a mafia hit, a government cover-up.
We have smoking gun documents from the CIA.
And a presidential scheme that allowed it to happen. After examining everything from the site of the shooting to the gun itself, the Warren Commission, charged with investigating the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, finds that he was brutally gunned down by Lee Harvey Oswald, a disgruntled ex-Marine with Soviet ties and Cuban sympathies. He acted alone.
Today, most libraries have dumped their volumes of the Warren Commission, and for most people, they realize it needs to go on the fiction shelf.
Now, authors Lamar Waldron and Tom Hartman lay out in their book, Ultimate Sacrifice, what they believe is the real story behind the Kennedy assassination. It's a new twist on an old theory. The mafia did it. But the authors insist it was the mob's knowledge of a secret plan by the Kennedys to overthrow Castro that gave the mafia the perfect cover.
They were able to assassinate JFK in a way that forced Bobby Kennedy and other key government officials to cover up much crucial information to protect that top-secret coup plan.
It's a theory that's captured the attention of other JFK assassination researchers. Though they don't all agree with the conclusion, they recognize it's a well-researched scenario. Waldron and Hartman have spent 2 decades poring through thousands of government documents and interviewing key players with revelations to tell. This is their proof. November 22nd, 1963.
President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 35 minutes ago.
As a country reels in shock and disbelief. 1,000 miles away from Dallas, at a restaurant in Tampa, a celebration is underway. Mobster Santo Trafficante raises his glass and toasts the assassination of John F. Kennedy. For Mafia Don Carlos Marcello in New Orleans, and for Johnny Rosselli in Chicago, it is also welcome news. The president's death marks the end of Bobby Kennedy's crusade against them, a relentless campaign that resulted in 12 times more cases brought against organized crime than ever before.
As Carlos Marcello explained it, if you cut off the tail of the dog, kill Bobby Kennedy, the head of the dog, JFK, will turn around and bite you. However, if you cut off the head of the dog, you kill JFK, the tail of the dog stops wagging on its own.
Whispers of a mafia hit on the president begin to circulate almost immediately. The mob's hatred of the Kennedy family is no secret.
We have organized crime and some big gangsters and hoodlums.
The strongest motive for murder is self-defense. And in the case of the mafia, I'm sure they viewed this as self-defense.
After JFK was buried, Bobby was literally a shattered man, a shell of what he had been. All the mafia prosecutions were scaled back.
It's a dangerous game Bobby's been playing, going after powerful gangsters, while his family has its own tangled relationship with them. From his father's bootlegging days to JFK's relationship with a godfather's girlfriend. But it's another connection to the mob that would bring down the president.
There was a deal to use the mafia to get rid of Castro.
For years, the CIA had enlisted the mafia's help to overthrow Castro.
Can you refresh your recollection at all?
The Kennedy administration's crusade against the mob back home is a slap in the face, a betrayal. It's the final straw. the summer of 1963, those twisted links among Cuba, the CIA, and the mob become the foundations of a plot to kill Kennedy. But an unwitting decision by the Kennedys themselves is the catalyst. After countless failed attempts by the CIA to remove or kill Castro, like the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion, the Kennedy brothers come up with their own plan to eliminate Castro once and for all.
JFK was faced with a quandary of how could he deal with this Cuban situation before the '64 campaign really kicked off, early in 1964.
Few administration officials ever learn of the plan. Among them, Secretary of State Dean Rusk.
We were quite surprised when he told us that John and Robert Kennedy were getting ready to stage a coup against Fidel Castro.
But it's a CIA memo dated June 28, 1963, that lays out the covert operation in black and white. Code name AM World. Kubark is code for the CIA, P. Bruman, Cuba, and Odioke, the Kennedys.
They echo the wording of Mission Impossible, the old TV show from the '60s, where the government says these groups have to be based outside the continental United States, but that if the United States is ever charged with complicity, the United States will publicly deny any knowledge of these folks' operations.
This once top-secret CIA document reveals the date of the scheduled coup, December 1st, 1963. It's only months away. Bobby Kennedy takes great pains to keep the president from being directly connected to AM World. Bobby himself meets with Cuban exile leaders to plan the overthrow.
This was something that was being very tightly controlled by Bobby. He was trying to run it in a way that it wouldn't become an open secret like the Bay of Pigs had.
There's little doubt that Bobby's running the show. But what Bobby doesn't realize is that AM World isn't the only show in town. Even as the CIA assigns operatives to the Kennedys' coup plan. Unknown to the brothers, the agency is still secretly working with the mafia to kill Castro.
These plots, of course, range from the sublime to the ridiculous, like exploding cigars and depilatories and everything else. But then there were also some serious consideration given to assassination attempts, etc., etc.
It's a mutually satisfying arrangement for both. The mob has much desired connections to the Cuban underworld, while the CIA turns a blind eye to the mafia's profitable gambling, arms sales, and drug rings there.
The CIA mafia plots we now know existed to assassinate Fidel Castro were carried out without the knowledge or without the approval of President Kennedy.
Directing the mob contingent, none other than Santo Trafficante, Johnny Rosselli, and Carlos Marcello. It's only a matter of time before they get wind of the Kennedy coup plan through their CIA contacts. By July 1963, 6 mob associates infiltrate the plan. The CIA has no idea that their mafia collaborators are now players in the president's covert operation. Waldron and Hartman believe they have uncovered the evidence to prove this chain of events really happened.
We even have smoking gun documents from the CIA that clearly show where a key Cuban exile leader, in this case Tony Verona, was paid $200,000 by Rosselli's Chicago Mafia in the summer of 1963.
But the Mafia realizes it's in prime position for something no one dared consider before. Under the protection of the CIA, in the shadows of a secret coup plan, a presidential assassination plot is born.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Hartman Hospital has been advised to stand by for a severe gunshot wound.